Yeah. All right, Bosh, we're back. Squeeze the Neck podcast, and today we are, I believe the place is called Stockton-on-tees. Am I right?
Mate. Yep.
Correct. And we are at Stealth BJJ with my new mate, Mike. You didn't tell me your surname. Mike Unorthodox Nutrition.
Yeah. It's Leng, which
Leng.
sounds Chinese,
Perfect,
so
yeah.
but it's not.
Chinese Mike Leng. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
But
Chinese
thanks a lot for
Mike.
doing this,
Yeah,
mate.
yeah.
Appreciate
Awesome
you,
to be
mate.
here.
So we obviously we got hooked up on the old Instagram recently, didn't we?
Yeah.
Got speaking, reached out. I don't remember how it went actually.
I don't know either.
Like, you know,
I think I might have reached out to you, just
Perfect.
like I watched some of the podcasts and stuff that you
that
did,
right?
and then I think I can't remember who you had on that I saw, and I reached out. I don't know.
That's mate. We're getting so big that
Yeah,
people
yeah.
reach out to me. How about that?
Yeah, there's so many.
But it's a hell of a drive up here, mate. I tell you, I stopped
is,
off
mate.
in Manchester, had a couple in there on
Yeah.
route. I made it up here because this is about as far north as I've ever been
Yeah.
without flying. Anyway.
Yeah, this is a proper north, unfortunately.
Yeah, and we are Stealth BJJ, is the name of the
Yeah,
place.
yeah, Stealth BJJ.
And you are Unorthodox Nutrition.
I am, yeah.
Which is why we're here. So before we get into anything too deep, mate,
Yeah.
what do you do? Who are you?
So I have the company Unorthodox Nutrition, which is bespoke nutritional plans for anybody, but predominantly combat athletes. So MMA, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing, but predominantly MMA and jiu-jitsu are the main kind of guys that I work with, which is everybody from very beginner stage, white belt, first day on the mat, all the way up to guys that are in the UFC, Polaris, IBJJF world champs, you know, all the way up to in all levels of it, all the way through.
Boom. So it's the real deal. When you're saying like from white belt first down the mat, that's probably more interesting than the top level, right? Because everyone at the top level's got a nutritionist, obviously.
Yeah,
But
it's you generally find that the guys who are like hobbyists or like casual competitors and stuff have like life happening as well.
Yeah.
You know, they've got regular jobs, they've got kids, they've got other responsibilities that they kind of need to do. So it's kind of like from like a problem solving kind of thing, is they are having trouble getting their nutrition like sorted with everything that they've got going on. So it's me to kind of like help them fit it all in and plan it all properly. Where obviously very top athletes, that all they're doing is coaching, sleeping, you know, so, and then trading. So while the stakes are higher for those guys and they need to be a bit more on it, they generally have less going on in their life.
Yeah.
But they need to be a bit more like dialed in, because they're looking for like the smallest advantages that you can get at that level.
Yeah.
You know, like in jiu-jitsu, it's that half a millisecond of making something will make the difference between a fight. So they're kind of like, I'm a lot stricter with those guys, and they need to be dialed in.
Right.
Where a guy with like, you know, 3 kids, he's working like 80 hours a week or whatever, and he's trying to train like 3 or 4 times a week. Like, there's a lot more give with that, with it being regular life.
Yeah, and weight gain, weight loss, whatever way it is, I mean, is obviously at the top level is much more of a thing, I would imagine, for you, right?
Yeah. Depending on, that's kind of by either the individual or kind of what organisations that they're fighting in as well. Most guys are kind of walking around, you know, a good few kilos above the fighting weight. But depending on how we bring them down depends on the organisation. So you've got things like Polaris, for example, is day before weigh-ins. So you can obviously play the weight cut game and things like that, which does help. But IBJJF is literally weigh in, go to the bullpen, and so you can't do it. So what you'll find is a lot of people do like stupid stuff like massive weight cuts for IBJJF, but then when they fight, they're like, it doesn't feel like me out there. Like, I don't perform like that in the gym. And it's like, well, you don't do stupid shit before you go training in the gym. So it's kind of like, it depends on the athlete and what they're going for. Some like guys compete in everything. Some people only at the top of the sport go, right, well, I'm going to do Pans, Worlds and Euros maybe, and they'll just do 3 big comps a year. Or then you've got guys who just do sub-only stuff.
Yeah.
So they'll just kind of like, if they get the nod from big sub-onlys, they'll do that. So
Yeah, so then it's obviously a different thing if you're last minute versus if you're doing 3 events a year, right?
yeah,
You're right.
but generally if it's last minute, we're not doing like kind of anything crazy.
Right.
And you can normally get like, say, always ask for a catch weight if they're coming to you last minute,
Right.
because they need you to fill in that
Yeah.
slot, you know what I mean? You might be, and to be honest, the other guy will probably be quite good. Like, say it's at, you know, 80, you can probably get away with it being 82, 83.
Yeah,
Like,
right. And he's probably happy anyway, isn't he? If you're
Yeah,
similar
yeah.
size, you're not cutting down too much. But
Yeah.
is there much of a difference? It might be a bit of a stupid question, but is there much of a difference between sort of an MMA fighter and a jiu-jitsu guy, or is it pretty much the same for you?
No, so there is a difference, yeah. Because everybody's generally day before weigh-in when it comes to MMA.
Right.
Those guys generally walk around with a lot more muscle mass than jiu-jitsu fighters. they generally have bigger strength and conditioning programs and stuff like that. Like, to be honest, the ideal kind of body type for jiu-jitsu is generally quite tall and thin, unless it's kind of like stuff like ADCC and things like, which does favour like more muscle mass, etc. So those guys are generally depleting a lot more to put on a lot more, where jiu-jitsu guys aren't really looking to do that like as a whole. And the training volume as well is much higher for MMA than jiu-jitsu. Like, even guys who are training a lot will do maybe, even if they're doing 8 sessions a week, where they're doing a couple of days where they're doing doubles and stuff, like MMA guys are generally looking between 10 and 15 sessions a week when they're covering everything.
A week.
Yeah, when they're in camp, like 2 a days is like the standard. So they generally require a lot more attention in terms of keeping them fueled up to do the training during camps, but also we need to be bringing their weight down to where they need to be as well.
Well, because especially with MMA, like everyone cuts weight, right? Whereas in jiu-jitsu, I know lots of people I train with that like just underweight sometimes.
Yeah.
Like if they're competing at 60, they might get in at 58 or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It just is what it is.
What I generally say for, like, if you think a competition is your opportunity to kind of like express the skill level that you've got,
right?
So you want to be in the best place possible to be able to do that. I generally say from like say white belt to purple belt, don't be cutting weight unless it's like a massive comp that you've got a genuine chance. Like if you've got a genuine chance of winning worlds, then maybe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if not, just compete as much as possible, because competing within itself is a skill that you need to get used to doing. Handling the nerves, fighting like at a high intensity, one after the other, depending on what you weigh as well and what belt you are. Sometimes you might have like, 10, 11 fights to get to the podium. Like it's something like blue belt, like lightweight. You're going to have that many fights.
There's a million people.
Yeah, there's a million people at Euros doing it. So we want those guys to, if they've got fat to lose, absolutely we want to get them in a good place body composition wise, more muscle, less fat. But we don't really want to be doing like weight cuts and stuff for those guys. They're better just to compete as much as often. Because
it doesn't matter as much. It's not like it's condescending to them, but it doesn't at this stage.
No,
right?
it doesn't. No one cares. Like, it's not like you have a record that you're carrying around with you that like people look at.
Especially in jiu-jitsu, no one gives a fuck, right? Everyone's lost a million times.
No one's undefeated in this game. So it's kind of like you shouldn't be as bothered. Like I've got a guy called Armin who's just got his blue belt, and his like thought process at the moment is I want to compete as much as physically possible, but I'm not bothered about the result. Obviously, if I win, that's great. But the idea is just to compete lots, because I want to be able to build up the ability to compete well before I get to like later belts when it actually matters.
That's brilliant. How old is he, the guy?
He's like early 20s.
Yeah,
like,
so he's a young kid, really, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? And that's to have that mindset, because like you said, no one cares, right, about the results. So if he can go out there without the pressure, he probably wins more than he would anyway, right? Because it's just playtime to him, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and as long as kind of like as we go on, we'll probably pick some comps out where we will kind of have something a bit more dedicated. But no one really cares if you win the Empire Lancaster Open. You know what I mean? Like, you care like shitloads, but like, no. Even Worlds, like if I said to you, who was the medium heavy blue belt Worlds winner this year?
I'd ask you to speak English for me, please, sir. You know what? Yeah. No one cares.
No one cares. Like they just don't give a shit. So yeah, depending on who they are, depends on kind of what we're doing.
Yeah.
But if it's like black belt Worlds or brown belt Worlds and stuff like that, then it is a bit more.
Because it carries more weight then, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? It is a bigger deal. But what's your background yourself, mate? Was you a lifetime martial artist?
Yeah. So I did kind of. Same as all kids, like I'm old as fuck now. But
how old as fuck?
I'm 41.
Oh, you're old as fuck.
Yeah, I'm old as fuck. Yeah. I'm ancient in this game, mate. So did like when I was younger, like dodgy karate and all that stuff.
Oh, did you? With like a dodgy instructor with a belly and all that.
Yeah, and all that mad stuff. And then obviously kind of stopped that as I got into my teenagers and discovered girls and booze and all that kind of thing.
You're talking crazy to me.
And then as I got older, it was kind of like the UFC. My mate was like, same as everyone happens back then. It was like this when it was back like UFC like 65 or whatever, Like,
really back in the day.
Yeah. And it's like my mate like Mark was like, "Mate, have you seen this? You've got to watch it." I was like, "Holy shit!" And then started basically searching where we could do jiu-jitsu, and it was basically the coach from here, Jamie, he was putting on a class that was in like a Thai boxing gym.
Yeah, because
like,
no one had a jiu-jitsu school back then, did they?
No. They had a bit of mat space and did it on like a Wednesday night.
And you was the oddballs that come in, right?
Yeah,
like, even like my background was boxing, right? So when like people said about jiu-jitsu, I'm not talking that long ago either. Like I'm 34.
Yeah.
Like when I was 20, if you said to me you did jiu-jitsu, you were just fucking odd.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But like why though? Like dudes coming in and cuddling each other after we finished.
We want to do that. You know.
Yeah. So yeah, started off for that. As I was doing that, I was became like a fat kid during the time when I was taking off from exercise and drinking and whatnot. So got in shape myself, and then back in the day there was like before social media, there's like forums. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like the old what they call was it like Sherdog forum as well.
Yeah, Sherdog, and there was the Cage Warriors ones that were big in the UK. So I like kind of lurked around the nutrition kind of like sub forum on there, and then answered people's questions, and then they started to ask me more questions, and that turned into, can you write me a plan?
Is that
then,
right? That's
yeah,
cool,
yeah. And then it kind of like, which I remember the first plan I ever did, I charged a tenner for. Like, to start with, it was like I just did them, and then because there was no such thing as like an online nutritionist back then. It was.
How old are you at this point when you're doing this?
So it will have been, like I say, 16 years ago. So
25-ish.
Yeah.
So it's just pocket money, basically.
Yeah.
You know
I was still like working. I didn't start doing it full time till I was about 30, 31.
Yeah.
So it just built up from there, basically. But yeah, it wasn't like a job.
Wasn't a business plan. You just fell into it.
Yeah. And then you just started doing it, and then obviously as time grows on, people do well, people talk to other people and stuff like that, and it has kind of grown into obviously a business and something I'm very, very lucky to do.
Yeah. So when you were watching like the UFC 65, is this sort of around the time like Michael Bisping would have been coming up and like that?
Yeah. Like I remember like watching like the Ultimate Fighter like one that he was on, like Stephen Bonner versus Forrest Griffin, like in the final, and it was wild.
Yeah.
Like I still remember like UFC 100. Where it was Brock Lesnar versus Randy Couture was like in the heavyweight thing, and that was mental. Like there was like, I think there was like him, GSP on the card. Like there was so many like high quality fights and stuff.
It was Frank Mir. It was 100, I think.
It was. Yeah.
Brock Lesnar, Frank Mir. You had GSP versus Thiago Alves. Mental card, wasn't it? Because back in the day, this was when I first started to become aware of it, and I think this was 2009. So at this point, I was just like, if it weren't boxing, it don't matter. Even that was the first stages where it started piquing my interest, you know.
But back then it was like one UFC a month and maybe like
you
one
couldn't watch
fight
a minute,
night.
or maybe you could have, but like
we were like pirating. They were like pirating it. I remember when it came on like BBC Sport or something like that at after o'clock in the morning. I used to get my dad to kind of put it on like a CD, DVD recorder on for me, so I could watch it and stuff. But that was like the mental time of it just kind of exploded and stuff like that.
Because it kind of went away a little while as well, didn't it, from my memory? So I started really watching, as I say, that got my interest, but I was a bit kind of like, still boxing head. But GSP, when he come back off his ACL surgery, I don't know when he fought Carlos Condit.
Yeah.
That was when I really started watching him religiously. That was when it was, because between like that time and then it seemed to go a bit more professional. Like,
it did, like GSP, I always say is the first like MMA fighter.
Right.
Like before that, you always had guys that were like, they were a jiu-jitsu fighter that learned some striking, or they were a striker that learned, some wrestling or whatever it is. Like, it was like, always when they introduced them, they said what kind of fighter they are, and he was the first one that was like trained to do it all.
Is that right? Yeah.
Like his wrestling was good enough to be invited to be on the Olympic team for the Canadians and stuff, and he was just like he was insane to watch. Like he's still like one of the greatest ever, I think. Like I think when he was fighting Josh Koscheck, he hit something like a straight hook, leg kick, Superman punch, takedown, like all in like one sequence. And I remember watching it going like, that's just like it's insane. But then obviously it's evolved like so much more since then.
There's loads of people like that now. Whereas back then he was like almost like the first real professional, wasn't he?
He was,
Like doing it like you remember the old, I think it's called Prime Time, wasn't it? You remember Prime Time?
Yeah.
We used to follow him training and all that.
Yeah.
You watch him and then his opponent, and not that I'm knocking him, but it was Dan Hardy at the time, and Dan Hardy was sort of like travelling around with like the boys, and it just seemed like they was getting out the bus and going and having a tear up.
Yeah.
And then they showed you the other side of GSP training, and it was like fucking mental.
Like I'm mates with Dan, and obviously he was probably the closest I would say to any, apart from like Matt Serra, who did beat him. Like after he came back after that and went on the tear, probably the closest to beating him, because he had him like locked up in a triangle, and he weated the storm. And
he was in an armbar himself when his arm looked like it was going to snap. He didn't tap and all that.
But he said like GSP. He said when you fought GSP, it was like you know, like when he got a hold of you, you were like, what the fuck is this?
I've heard him speak about his grip. He said his grip was like...
Yeah, it's like his
insane.
isometric strength, you know what I mean? Like, it was just like, it's insane.
Yeah.
And generally everybody feels like that. Like, I watched a video from a client, a girl called Chelsea Lear, who is black belt over at Escapology. And she said that, like, every fight that you do, in the first minute, that person always feels like the strongest person you've ever fought. You know what I mean? In that first minute.
Yeah.
But then after that, it kind of counts down.
Yeah.
So she says, don't worry if you feel like really fucking strong as fuck in the first minute. After that, it's going to chill out.
That's
and it is true.
It is true. There's some truth to that, isn't it? It's interesting to hear that. But going back to Dan Hardy briefly, like he also spoke about that fight, particularly, and you'll know him better than me, obviously. I've just heard him on interviews and stuff. But he said about like the money he was earning for that. Like, it was like, I think he said something, and again, if anyone knows better, you might know better, that he said what he earned for the fight, GSP spent like 6 times that on his camp to get to the fight. So he's like, I had no chance.
But like you say, GSP was like the first one that was kind of like bringing in individual coaches for anything, taking his nutrition seriously, his recovery seriously, like trying to tick like every box.
He was doing gymnastics, Olympic lifting, all sprint training, wasn't he? He was like a proper athlete.
But before that, it was kind of just like, who was the hardest? You know what I mean? Like, you know, and then that kind of like started the sport to become just like a lot more professional, and like people realised that actually you do need like to be an athlete in this full skill set and stuff like that. Like you still get like the odd guy coming through that's just like just unbelievably tough or something like that. But most people who become champs and that now, if you look, they're all very, very similar. You know what I mean? Like they've got similar kind of body types, but they're just bigger or littler until you get like heavy and stuff. And very similar kind of like game pattern. There's like grappling for MMA and stuff like that. And obviously wrestling is still such like a massive component of it.
Mate, honestly, I don't know if you've worked with wrestlers. Like, it's a different thing. Like the athleticism of a wrestler. Like I've mentioned him all the time on here, Lubo Kumbrov. I don't know if you've come across him.
I haven't.
Bulgarian champion, just one of the best, if not the best grappler I've ever had the pleasure to be around, like on the mat. But when I've been to Bulgaria, we were out there and seen it up close and stuff. It's like the level of athleticism compared to not just anything else is like insane. They're like there was a kids class, like 6-year-olds doing backflips in their warm-up.
Well, that's the thing they get conditioned from, and it's such like it's work capacity that they train, like to be able to put in that level of work for so long, like, and it's trained from like occasionally like people say, "Oh, what do you think's like the hardest sport?" And I was like wrestling,
for sure.
Like
I would say wrestling.
Anyone anywhere who says that I am fit, like I'm like, you're not. Like go wrestle for 1 minute for someone who like wrestle. I guarantee, or just normal grappling, you will be paggered. But fitness is a very kind of like specific thing. Like you might be able to grapple for an hour, but you might not be running a triathlon. You know what I mean?
No, of course. Yeah, I was going to say, like, if you give me a racket after 5 minutes, I'm sure I'll be exhausted.
Exactly. So you kind of your body gets used to kind of what you're doing. I suppose as much as everyone slates it, the closest that you're going to get is kind of like high rocks, like CrossFit athletes and stuff like that.
But even, do you know what? It's funny you say that. This was a few years ago. I was probably, I don't know if I had a purple belt yet, or maybe still a blue belt. But like these big lumps come down from the CrossFit gym. And they was all exhausted. Not just with me. I'm just talking on the mat. And they were all exhausted within seconds. Not seconds, but you know, like the first round, they was blind. The best I've seen, and he's been on here, John Collins, he was an Olympic rower. He went to the Olympics for Great Britain twice. And he said he noticed it, but with his stroke, because it's a bit different. It's not sprint, but it's not like, and I might be butchering what he said, but something along the lines of like, because of the sport and you get used to being in that pain and breathing, it really helped him. And someone else who'd rolled with him said it does. He's efficiency, and he's the only person
that's the thing. Like when you start, it's like it's the meme, isn't it? That like, you know, blue belts are shredded, but then brown belts have got like a big gut and stuff like that. Because they just become so much efficient this time around.
And that's it, innit? That's the sport. Like in any sport, like we've all seen them like fat bloke in a boxing ring, like on Instagram or whatever, right? Floating around, pinging a jab against some young guy. And it's real, man. It happens.
Is. It's like the skill set is like there, but it does matter, obviously, at the top levels as well, because everybody's got that skill.
But I think a lot of it's in here as well, in terms of like, if you're used to punches coming at your head, and I'm not, and we start having a tear up, for me, it's a big panic, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Whereas for you, you're just like...
You're used to it. That's like a massive thing. Or same with grappling and stuff like that, when you know the difference between I'm in this and it hurts, but it's not going to put me to sleep or break anything. Like, it's just really unpleasant. Like, it's fine versus actually this is going to put me out or, you know. But the vice versa, that a lot of people when they first start don't realise, especially like gi and stuff like that. Actually, this is good. Like, is going to put me to sleep, and I don't even realise it. And then, you know,
I don't know if I mentioned it on here before, but the only time I've ever been put to sleep in jiu-jitsu was with shout out Leonie. She knows who she is, black belt lady who we weren't sparring.
Munslow,
yeah.
She's client.
She's client, is she?
Yeah,
Shout out Leonie.
Yeah,
Brilliant. She's I've known her since I started jiu-jitsu. But anyway, she put me to sleep in a loop choke.
Yeah.
And we weren't sparring.
Yeah.
It was exactly like you're saying. I was a beginner and like trying to pass the legs.
Yeah.
And thought I was fine, and I woke up with her shaking me legs. And that's the only time I've ever been put to sleep.
I'm the same. It was by just a white belt, a guy called Mike Lewis. I went to pass his guard, and he had his hand in my collar. And I was like, I'm not bothered by this. And he had a baseball bat choke on me, and I didn't realise. And I passed, and then next thing I'm knowing, I was like, why is Mike in my room?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, holy shit. Yeah, but I think that happens to everyone.
But that's exactly what it was like, exactly like you said, because I didn't think I was in trouble.
Yeah,
because it was a gi, and I was like, I'm fine. I was still moving, and then I just gone.
Yeah,
like,
and then you don't even realise it's over.
Yeah, it was so strange. And she would have been like, I mean, I was a beginner, and she was probably a brown belt at the time.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, so it was what it was. But that was the one time where it's like, you're not getting crushed, you're not getting your arm ripped off.
Yeah.
You're okay, completely coherent.
Yeah.
Bomb. Gone.
And that's it. You know, I think the only kind of equivalent from that in no-gi is probably like heel hooks, because it doesn't feel...
You've got to be very careful.
Yeah, bad, and then it can, you know...
Because that's the other side of it. Like, me getting put in a loop choke, fine, I drove home, do you know what I mean? Absolutely no problem. Carried on, probably did another 10 rounds of sparring that day, do you know what I mean? Whereas, like, if you get your heel hooked, you're fucked there.
And that's something that, like, a lot of people, especially, like, you know, that you need to think about with your training partners and stuff like that. Like, and I talk a lot of it with clients and things like that, is like, it's like you want to have hard rounds and stuff like that, but you also want to come back tomorrow and have hard rounds, or be able to run around with your kids at the weekend and stuff like that. These guys who are like training pro don't have like any of these other responsibilities, so you've got to kind of like manage your own intensity better than them. Because they can just rest like in between where you've got to go to work and your kids and all that kind of stuff like that. Like, so it's very, very different. But yeah, it plays a massive part in it.
Yeah, and I think picking your training partners is a big thing too, isn't it? Like Danaher spoke about it, didn't he? About like how most of your hard rounds should be with people that you're better than.
Yeah.
So you can sort of live drill sort of mindset. And I think there's a lot to that, man. I've noticed when I teach classes and stuff and I jump in on rounds at the end, you're not doing it for winning's sake, are you? Do you know what I'm saying? You're doing it for like them almost.
Yeah.
And then from that you go, what if I just put my foot here? What if I just move that way?
Yeah.
And you start playing the game, and at the end you feel fine.
And I think that sometimes like with guys like that you try in moves on, it's good because they move like so weirdly and don't do what they're supposed to do. Where you're like, that allows you to figure stuff out a bit better. Where sometimes like when you get a like higher belt, it is like, I do this move, then you do that move, and then I do this move. Like, so,
and you're trying to win as well because your ego's on. Whereas like, and sometimes if a beginner comes in and he's 105 kilos and he's strong and he's fast, that's a different problem, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? He's not skilled yet, but it's still an issue.
Well, I get it now. Like, there's a load of guys, like, obviously trying to take my head off in that. And they're like, 21, 22. I'm like, you were literally half my age.
Yeah, you could be their dad.
Yeah. Like, and I was like, and, you know, you're trying to absolutely put it on me. But you just have to become old and wise and do anyway.
Wise, not old. Don't play that old shit.
Yeah.
But the thing as well is, I think, is knowing what you're sparring for too. If you're trying to win every single round, you can't train every day hard, can you? Do you know what I mean? It is what it is. Like, there's a time and a place for that, obviously. But if it's like you say, if me and you come in here and we've decided we're gonna train Monday to Saturday, you got to adapt what you're doing.
It is, and it's like, I always kind of say to people, like, what are you training for? Are you training like to be good at jiu-jitsu? Because then you need to have specific things on how you think in your session, because you need skill acquisition. Or like, I do jiu-jitsu because it is fun. I have a lot of fun when I'm doing it. Like, I'm not really bothered if I win. I'm not really bothered if I lose. Like, obviously it's much better to win, but I'm not like, you know, going to be absolutely gutted if someone taps me and stuff like that. Like, I do it purely, it's for fun. I find it really, really fun. And it's like a social event and stuff like that. But some people aren't, and it's like, if you need to realise, if you want to be a competitor and become a serious competitor, you need to kind of have a very specific training that you're going to try and do. Like it contributes to your training. And like some gyms and things like that have, you know, comp classes and teams and stuff like that, and their training is very kind of like specific, especially when they're coming into, you know, worlds or big camps and stuff like that. I know a lot of gyms kind of have like dedicated camps and stuff, and that is like a different level of training.
And it's different at different time periods as well, right? Because like if me and you or one of us has got a competition coming up in 6 weeks, your training is different, like you said, from the skill acquisition. If we're just training all the time, you need to be able to be on the mat and put yourself in a bad spot, don't you? And just flow about, let someone have your back, and then figure it out. And you know.
And I think it's the time for that is like there used to be like an off season. You used to basically have, you know, no gi season used to be from, you know, about June to like the Worlds, which is coming up. And then it used to be gi season and stuff like that, and people would kind of. But now it's just both all year round, all the time. So people don't really take an off season, but you need to, because that's when you get better. When you're actually training for a comp, you just kind of. You're working on your game plan and stuff like that, and it's, you know,
fitness
it's high, and a high intensity. Like you need to basically have like an off season where you work on your weaknesses that you have. Like if you know that like you it's horrendous if somebody takes you back, or you don't have a good enough understanding of leg locks and the mechanics behind it. Like you need to be able to take the time away from competition to improve those areas of your game, which is generally why I see people at the top of the sport, if they're doing tournaments, they are picking them like a year in advance. I'm doing this, this, and this. And then if they do like little ones between, they're not really that bothered about it. Like
I know a lot of people like that as well. That almost use them like last minute as like a glorified sparring session, really, like a dress rehearsal type thing. Do you know what I mean? They just show up on the day and fuck about and like see what happens. Because you can't get your foot ripped off every day forever, can you? Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you've got a competition in 3 weeks, you're going to fight a bit harder to get out of that. And versus, like if you've been caught anyway. You're going to get tapped in it.
So it's like. And people do as they get better and become like, and obviously a lot of competitors talk about it, like there is no winning in training, like it's training, it doesn't count. Like it counts like when you're like actually competing. Like you don't want to be like fighting arm bars and chokes and like unbelievably hard in the gym so your tendons are fucked and like your neck's got a massive crick in it and stuff like that. So you can't train properly and you can't like, you don't get anything for that. There's no kind of like reward for doing that. Apart from your injuries, but obviously surviving in competition, doing that, that's a different thing.
Because it matters then, doesn't it? Like I had this chat literally, what day are we now? Friday? On Monday I was teaching class and I had the conversation with a white belt. I had him Kimura tight and it was on. And he was fighting. And he's about the same size as me, so it wasn't like he was going to, you know, whatever. But I grabbed it and I had it and I held it. And he eventually got out. Because I'd let him, right? And he saw and he went, but I got out. And I said, mate, you got out because I loosened it. And your shoulder's fucked now. You can't train Wednesday. Do you know what I mean?
It's like, what's the opposite? Like, you know, I just rip it on and just destroy your shoulder.
That was the point I was trying to make to him. But he wasn't at a level yet where he could sort of understand. You know what I'm saying? But he was like, but I got out. And I was like, you didn't really. Do you know what I mean? Like, eased off enough for you to get out. But it was like one of them, and he's only been training like 6 weeks. Do you know what I'm saying? But it was like one of them deals. But I had it before once a long time ago, and I had a guy in a heel hook, and he rolled the wrong way. I let go just in time, caught the other side, and he rolled that way, and I let go. And I went a bit overboard, but I fucking had a guy at him. I was like, oh, you're fucking like... And more for my own panic, because I was like, he's a white belt, I nearly ripped your fucking knees.
You're like,
But you got to be aware of that kind of stuff, because from both ends, I mean, because for me, if I wasn't switched on, I would have ripped his knee off, and I was probably a purple belt at the time. Against a white belt, ripped his leg. Do you know what I mean? It was like,
even though it's not like your fault.
No.
Like if you're injured, you're not getting better. Like that's it.
No.
Like it's weird because the sport is completely designed around injuring each other. But you don't want to get injured because then like you are not progressing when you're injured.
Of course not.
So. I think everyone says it, don't they? Just tap early, and especially like the older that you get, you don't shrug off like niggles and stuff as quickly.
Right.
Like you know, there's like 20-year-old lads who were like they're made of rubber. When like I've got clients that are in the 50s and stuff like that, it's like if I pick up a niggle, like it's with me for, like I partially tore like a ligament in my knee, and that was in February, and I've only just come back to training now. Like where, so it's I had no idea how it happened either. but it just lasts forever. Well, 10, 15 years ago, it'd have been a week or something, and it'd have been fine.
Yeah. But that's a part of it too, like what you said with the stuff around it too. If you're 20 and you're going home to sleep before your next session, you've got a major advantage over someone like you who's got a business in their 40s and fucking
2 young kids and getting me up at 5 and stuff like
exactly.
that.
So there's all kinds of things, but we sound like 2 fucking old dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I'm not as old as him, folks.
No one is.
No one is. Not even your dad, right?
No.
Yeah. But so what was you doing sort of as a kid? Was you martial arts from a very young? I asked you said the karate stuff.
I did that. I wasn't really like a physical or a sporty kid. I was fucking super nerd. Like,
was you?
Yeah. And this was obviously back before it was cool to be a nerd and stuff like that.
Is it cool to be a nerd now? That's how old I am.
And, like back then, you would kick the shit out of if you had comic books in your backpack. Never mind.
That's right. You should as well.
Yeah. So that was kind of me as a kid, but I think that kind of like led to having a brain that kind of leads to like problems. But I was also shit at school, so I like the worst of both worlds. Yeah. So I was nerdy and terrible, but also like shit at school.
Yeah. And what was it on your mind at them times? Was it comic books and stuff? You weren't into boxing or anything like that?
No. Like watching, like reading comic books and stuff like that. Watching like action movies and stuff like that. Like it was just but then I suppose that's why you kind of gravitate towards martial arts, because you want that kind of like superpower in it, you know what I mean? Especially where like I didn't discover obviously jiu-jitsu till I was a lot older, but we joke about now, like imagine you knew jiu-jitsu when you're at school. It would literally be like you had a superpower.
A different world, mate.
I've got a client, and Pete will know him as well, a young lad called Alex Williams. Who's been training forever. He's young 20s now. He won the Worlds as a kid and stuff like that. He fights like MMA and stuff now. But I know his dad well. Like when he was in like year 7, he was like getting called into school because he was kicking the shit out of year 11s, and they were like, you need to stop fighting. And he's like, no, you need to stop people picking on my son. He's 4 years older than him. Like if he wants to fuck around, he'll find out. Like,
feeling froggy jumps.
And that's exactly it. But obviously at school, if you have that kind of ability, like it's like a superpower.
Of course it is, and especially at that age, right? 4 years might as well be 20 years.
Exactly.
It's so overwhelming.
But he's frightening now. He's just an absolute beast.
What's his name?
Alex Williams.
Alex Williams, shout out.
Young
Alex.
He trains SBG under South Shields under Alex England, who's ex Cage Warriors champ, who's a black belt under Peter Irvin. So,
all right, of course. So shout out Peter Irvin. As we're sitting doing this now, I'm going to him later to get a podcast in. So everyone seems to know you, mate. So when I speak to you again,
it is. Everything's connected. So But he's been in the game forever and ever and ever. So.
Yeah. And what belt are you in jiu-jitsu yourself?
Just blue.
Just blue after all these years. You like the sandbagging blue belt?
No, I'm just terrible, bro. I'm just fucking really bad. Like I'd like to say that I was, but no, I'm just really bad. I just enjoy it.
Yeah, but hey, listen, blue belt's a funny one, isn't it? Because like you get some blue belts, there's blue belts and there's blue belts. So like anyone like who thinks blue belt, because I've had this conversation before. Like when I was a blue belt, people would go like, oh blah blah, what belt are you? Because they've known I train jiu-jitsu, they don't know anything about it, and I've been training jiu-jitsu 5 years or whatever. And you go blue belt, and they go, oh. Okay. Like as in like
you haven't got a black belt yet? Like, you know what I mean?
Shut the fuck up, man.
But it's different as well. Like I've got a client called Evan Duncan who's just he lives in the US now, but he's from here. He's just medalled and won like no-gi worlds at blue belt. And you watch his matches and you're like, that's not a fucking blue belt. I don't care what anyone says, right? That is not a blue belt. That is like 7-8 years ago. That would be an insane black belt. You know what I mean? Like
big time.
So but that happens at that level, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you see, we've seen it recently, where somebody will win like blue belt worlds 2 years in a row.
It's fucking scumbag.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't like you're literally the best blue belt in the world, and you don't get a purple belt. Stupid. It's kind of like
it's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Like, anyone that wins a coloured belt, world championship. More than once. What the fuck are you up to? Go away.
And it's not like you can say, oh, well, it's good for my sponsors. Like, no sponsors care. Like, I know, obviously, like, the guys like Matt and Ben over at Scramble and Lee and Gareth over at Tatami and stuff like that. Like, they're great at like, looking after, like, young talent coming up. But they don't give a shit about, like, the blue belt world champion. They know that they're not going to sell more gis by putting a gi on, like, the blue belt world champion.
That's the reality.
Yeah, that's the reality of it. So at the end of the day, like, you're just sandbagging it, and no one, like, thinks it's a good thing.
Of course not. And the reality is, if you're going to get really, and I might get fucking some shit for this, but the reality is, unless you win a world title at black belt, it's not a real world title, right? Because the real one is the best guy.
Yeah.
Simple as that, isn't it? You know what I mean? We all might want to dance around it and not want it, but that's the truth, isn't
it?
You
know
what I mean?
It is, and like, if you take it another level, like if like winning the absolute, like a black belt, there's like no doubt, like there's no one else.
Yeah, exactly. It's as simple as that, isn't
it? Yeah. Which is why like Roger Gracie and stuff like that was like such an insane level. Like I always like say to people when they should be treating like the nutrition and stuff like that, they should strive for a level of Roger Gracie consistency. Because consistency kills. And if you look at Roger, like obviously in his last Worlds, he beat everybody with like a day one white belt choke, cross collar from mount. Every single person, every one of those black belts has seen that choke fucking a gazillion times. They probably have not been caught in that choke for 10 years, every single one of them. But he was that consistent and unbelievable that he could do that at those level of people. So you should strive for that level of consistency, because then, you know, to be that good at basics is like insane.
But that's an interesting point as well, because I don't know if you know who Helio Seneca is.
No.
Belt. So he's the head of our school, new school, new school. He's the guy that gives the black belts to the black belts type thing from Brazil, blah blah. Great character. Anyone who knows him knows. But he said once when I was a white belt at a seminar, he said like a lot of these white belts probably do more than me about himself. He was like, I do like five, I think he said 5. Someone might help me out. I think he said I do 5 moves. I just do it really well, and I know how to get to them. And it was like, wow.
It's you know there's one of our brown belt tees, a guy called Jon Leng, so shout out John. I always like take the piss out of him saying that he's got like street fighter jiu-jitsu. He's got like 3 moves that he just does, like it's like knee slice, back step. If he doesn't get them, he's got like cloverleaf leg locks and then like stuff like that. And like I take the piss that he's going to do it, but he's so unbelievably good at them that you just can't stop it. You're like, I know that you're going to try and like de-slice me. I know it's coming. And if I stop that, you're going to backstep. But you just do it so efficiently and
you
well.
You can't do nothing about it.
Yeah, you can't do anything.
I think that's so important too. Like, you know, like there's some jiu-jitsu instructors out there, no names, but they'll like, they're a bit sort of cult-like and purist, right? They won't give a belt because you don't know the intricacies of X, Y, Z. Whereas to me, it's got to stay like that. Whereas it's like, he could have one move. If he can pull it off on everyone, he fucking gets his belt, right? Because it's like, it's got to be effective. Otherwise, you turn into karate.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Where it's like, you know, it's not, but like, you know, and to be able to do that, like there was a thing recently, wasn't it, where Fionn fought in a sub only, and the last was like, oh, what you going to do a basic knee cut pass on me? And then she did the basic in the match.
Yes, I will.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I will then. And like, that was amazing. Like, it was so cool. And then I think she got a load of merch up to say like basic knee cut bitch or something like
basic
that.
Basic bitch, yeah. But that's it. Like, I always use Khabib in MMA as that. Like, you know what's coming. You just can't do anything about it. And to me, that's what makes him so great. Like,
which is worse, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like you got caught like with a spinning back fist into another spinning back fist that put you out. It's like, you know, you're going to double leg you and smother you and, you know, take you back and choke you out or smash your head in. You just can't stop it.
And you know it's coming. I can tell you how it's going to go, and you can't do anything about it. I think that's special to me. But what's you MMA fan? Obviously, you work with a lot of MMA guys.
Yeah.
What's your MMA background yourself? Have you done any?
Not a little bit when I first started jiu-jitsu, but I quickly realised that that's a fucking stupid idea.
Don't like getting kicked in the head.
Like someone like just punches you and you just go, fuck off. No, that's a terrible idea. Like, I absolutely do not want to get punched in the head. MMA guys are just different. And I always still say, even now, you get MMA guys that are martial artists and MMA guys that are fighters. But generally, martial artists are winning world championships for that because how they approach it is so methodical and things like that. But you've got fighters who kind of like, they can be on the bottom, having their elbows like smashed through the skull, and somewhere in their brains going, you can win this, bro. He's where you want him. You know what I mean? It's just made of like something else.
And there's levels of both. In like a good example would be Jon Jones, right? Because he's like obviously probably the best that's ever done it. But he's got that too, hasn't he? We've seen him in multiple occasions when he's taken a beating. He can figure it out and come through it.
And come back. Obviously, there's the question, isn't he, if he's going to fight Tom Aspinal, that I don't think he will.
I keep having this chat on here. He's got to fight him. He's got to fight him.
He's going to fight Stipe. He's going to take his paycheck and he's going to retire.
See, I've got a theory on this. I think he's doing this like to drum up more money.
I think if he was going to take one more fight, the only one he would do is Pereira.
That's a good fight too.
Because it'd be so big. Like, the payday for him would be so big. Like, and he's probably still got a good chance of beating Pereira just based on size.
Style-wise, I think he's got... Well, just, size, but also style, just style. I think he's got a much better chance against him than Tom.
Yeah, like if anybody's got the capability to beat him, it's going to be Tom. Like,
you don't think it'll happen? You think you?
No, I don't think he'd take the. I don't think he'll take the risk at this stage.
Yeah,
like, I think he'd rather retire like with the record that he's got and be, you know.
Yeah, I hear that, but I think where Tom's got the interim belt now and he's so hyped and everyone wants to see it, I don't think his ego will let him walk away.
Maybe,
he wants to be the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
He's open about it, and you know what I mean. He's
That's
undefeated.
the thing. Like that, if he does, then there will be just a style where you don't fight Tom. Like Tom's
exactly.
push,
Yeah, exactly.
And Tom's obviously like pushing that. Like I know Tom's brother quite well, Sean, who's like a nutritionist as well, who's a really, really good coach. And like Tom's really pushing. Basically, you're scared to fight me.
Yeah,
that's it. That's what it's down to. You're just scared to fight me. Like if we just retire without fighting him, then it's kind
that's
of
how it looks. Whichever way you cut it, because people will make the argument there's always going to be one more, but not like this. I think this is a special cat in it. Do you know what I mean? This is a guy that you got to fight him. You have to fight.
He hasn't been out of the first round. Like how many people has he put away in the first couple of minutes?
Yeah,
like,
he's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, he's just like he's unreal. I saw like a video of him this morning, and he's like incline benching 130 kg dumbbells in each hand for reps, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, and then you look at that and you think, how are we the same species? Like, how are we the same thing? Like, but yeah, I don't know if Jon Jones will fight him. I'd love to see it.
We've got to see it. We have to see that.
I'd love to see it. Because if Tom beat him, it'd be amazing. Like, it would be amazing.
See, I keep asking people this, and people are probably getting bored of me having the same conversation. But fuck it, I like it. So we got to go there. If let's just say they do fight, right? Yeah. John, I'm going to call him Tom Jones then. Tom Aspinal and Jon Jones. Yeah. If they fight, how's that go?
The longer it goes into the fight, the more it's Jon Jones's. Yeah. Because you haven't really seen Tom do 5-round wars. Mm-hmm. Like, you haven't seen him get pushed. He finishes, he just overwhelms people in credit. Like, his striking, the size of him, his physicality, you know what I mean? He overwhelms people. If anyone can weather that, it's probably Jon Jones. Yeah. And the longer it goes on, you know, Jon's got the experience of going over 5 rounds. There's nothing that can happen in there that he hasn't seen. Jon's done some fucking crazy shit over, like, you know, over his time in the cage. I think the longer it goes on, just on an experience level, the longer it lends itself to being Jon. But he's been inactive for quite a while. He's only fought like Cyril, and that was like a big mismatch really anyway. Yeah. And then he's fought Stipe, who hasn't fought in God knows how long. Like, I don't know if he's going to like be like fight ready without having like regular tune-ups and stuff like that. But yeah, you never know. You know what I mean? Like,
you never know, right? And here's my theory on it. Call me a conspiracy theorist if you want. I feel he's using the Stipe as like a dress rehearsal. Like I'll use this for Tom. Because I'll get ready. I'll get in front of Madison Square Garden and get them butterflies and all that shit again. And then fight Tom. I can't see him walking away without fighting Tom. He's got to fight Tom.
It'd be amazing.
I want to see him fight Pereira too, to your point. I want that motherfucker up there.
I think that's the fight that he'll probably go for and retire because the payday will be bigger than Tom Aspinall.
That's an interesting point.
That's an interesting point. What'd be wild is if Stipe knocked him out.
This might come out just after because it's coming, isn't it, in the next week or so. As we're here, our prediction would be I'm going to predict Jon Jones massively.
Yeah, I'm going to say Stipe is going to knock him out. Fuck it, I don't know.
Just throw a spanner in the works. Fuck everything.
I'll be I've got no lose there. Like, everyone thinks I'm crazy for saying it if it does now. But if it does, then I'm a savant.
Exactly.
And I'm sick. But because everyone's just looking past Stipe. They're like, it's not even a conversation that he's going to win. No one's having comparisons, are they? They're just, he's fighting Stipe.
When he beats Stipe, it's the conversation, isn't it?
It is, so it'd be wild for like Stipe to come out and, you know, just get like a lucky shot or something like that and just lights him out.
Chins him, puts him away.
Then the whole thing just fucking goes nuts, like up.
Well, then I think you'll see more fights because then you'll see like the Pereiras, you'll see like the 4 of them all fight each other. I think.
But then you'll see Tom Aspinall fight Stipe, and then you probably think Tom Aspinall's going to win, and then does Jon want like a chance to get the belt back before he retires, and it makes things a lot more interesting if Stipe wins.
But also it does. But then if Jon Jones beats Stipe convincingly and then gets on the mic and goes, "I want fucking Tom Aspinall," it'd be. Now we got a fight and a half there, haven't we? Like this is. I
think incredible. He will, but I think he'll see once Pereira. I really do. Yeah. Ooh. I think it's just. Like the fight that he wants to make, he's talked about it. I think the payday would be bigger than Tom Aspinall. Yeah. I think Pereira's got more fans, like worldwide, and obviously he's like a different animal completely.
And what about Pereira if he wins that? he's got 3 belts. Is he the greatest of all time then? Does he take that mantle?
Yeah, probably. Like, there's no one else who's done it.
Isn't it?
Yeah. It's like, it'd be hard to do it, but I'd love to see then Izzy come back and then beat him. That'd be like.
I think Izzy. I don't think Izzy can beat him at heavier weight because I think he got him because of the weight drain.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think like if they fight at a bigger weight, if they fought at 205, for example, I think that'd be quite one-way traffic. I think that'd be a beatdown.
He's scary, mate. He's like a Terminator.
Yeah.
That last fight against Thingy where he gets like the crotch shot. And he just like waves her Dean off.
Brilliant. Didn't even break eye contact.
Yeah. It's like no. I must
way.
Destroy him now.
Yeah.
This fight is over.
And his last one as well, when he like fucking. I know people say it about different people, but like Enter the Matrix, wasn't it? Moving, slipping, bang, move.
The closest thing I've ever seen like that before was when Anderson Silva fought Forrest Griffin.
Yeah.
That is like someone had showed the tape of the fight to Anderson before he fought it. Like that was like the closest that you get to like a movie fight.
Yeah,
you know
ridiculous.
What I mean?
That one was crazy, wasn't it? Because they say, I think they said Forrest Griffin got knocked out twice in the lead up to that, didn't they? That didn't do him no favour.
Yeah. The funniest thing ever, if you can find it on YouTube, is Forrest Griffin's on a radio show talking about it, and it's so funny.
After it's happened, you mean?
Yeah, after it's happened, and he was like just talking about it, like saying, I was trying to hit him, but he just wasn't there.
I think I've seen this.
And then he would hit me, and then he would look at me after I tried to hit him, as if I tried to do the most ridiculous thing that everyone has ever. How dare you try to hit me, you slow, silly white boy? And then just panned his head in, like.
But he's another one that gets forgotten, I think, in the GOAT talk, Anderson, because of the way his career ended. But people forget, don't they? At his peak.
Insane. But the ruin it. Conor will be the same.
Conor will be the same.
Doesn't enter it anymore because Conor like ruined his career and. Not ruined his career, but had like a few like dodgy fights, and now is just known for being a boozed up cokehead on yachts.
Well, he's coming back soon, allegedly.
I don't think he ever will, mate.
That was the question I was going to ask you.
I don't think he ever will. Obviously, I don't know him and don't know anyone in the camp and stuff like that. But when you've got billions in the bank and you can get up to go spar on cold mornings, or you can fly around the world to sit on a yacht and fucking like do loads of drugs and drink and stuff like that. It's blatantly obvious which he's doing. Yeah, like every time he says he's in the camp, there's a video that comes out of him partying and stuff like that.
But also the people, like I know I'm not breaking any news here. I've said it probably myself on it a few times. Like 10 years ago, he was on the dole in Ireland.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or 11 years ago now. But like, do you know what I mean? Like the difference between that, no kids. He said like his girlfriend was dropping him in a shitty Peugeot to the gym.
Yeah.
Like between that and what you are now, you can't be the same.
No, you can't.
Do you know what I mean?
Like. And to be honest, like I was talking about this last night at the seminar at Unraveled, like if you want to be legitimately the best in the world, that is what level of focus that you need to have. Like
he'd have to go away for 6 weeks, leave the family, go into an excluded camp like he used to in Iceland. Do you remember them videos of him training in Iceland in the hills and shit? You've got to go and do that again.
Yep, you need like nothing else. It needs to be the only priority in your life. Like, and he had a motivation to do it then, and I just think that he's like, we would all be like it, you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't go and do stuff that you didn't want to do, like, if you've just got that massive, like...
Especially when you've achieved your goals. I think that's when it's difficult too. If he, like, for instance, if he'd gone for all he's gone, but let's say he'd never won a world title, I think it's different, isn't it? Because you haven't ticked that box, but he's done it, man. And it's hard to do.
Back when he was doing it as well, when he was a champ, it was insane.
And when you see him talk as well, he believed it then. Like, you see him in interviews now, he just seems like the drunk uncle at a wedding,
he does,
you know what I mean?
Like, it's because he backed it up, you know what I mean? So, and everyone wanted him to lose because he talked so much shit. Like, in the lead up to the Aldo fight, like, was wild. But he got so much under his skin that it just like.
But he had that likable energy too, didn't he? Like, another one now, an Irish guy is Ian Gary.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I'm knocking him, but he couldn't be more unlikable if he fucking tried, could he?
No one likes him.
No one likes him, and it's like a different energy, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
And
like,
he's trying to be it. That's the thing.
And it's like you just look at him and you just shut up, mate. Do you
it's
know
like
what I mean?
Kobe Covington and stuff like that. To try and play a character, like to try and play like a heel and stuff. And you just like, you can spot inauthenticity like a mile away. It's like you just trying to do like Dylan Dennis and stuff like that. You know, you just come across as like an utter pleb.
Yeah, you do. That's it. And you got exactly with Conor. I think he was just being himself at the time, wasn't he? And it came across the right way. Now, of course, people hated him, but a lot more people liked him. That's why he's famous, isn't it? You know what I mean?
And obviously, he did incredible things. Unfortunately, he's just kind of
gone on too long, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, he
kept going. Obviously, like who's not going to take the Floyd Mayweather fight? He got 100 million for that, right?
Yeah.
But imagine if like he came back after that, didn't he? And he started losing and things went downhill. But I know it's easy to say in fucking hindsight, but when he beat Eddie Alvarez, he was at that point looked at as like one of the all-time fucking elite fighters, whether you liked him or not. If he'd have walked away then, like how would his legacy be? You know what I'm saying?
I think he should have done, obviously, the Conor, the Mayweather fight, and then after like Khabib and stuff like that, he should have just called it a day.
Called it that, well, or after Cowboy one, when he come back and have one more blowout and then fucking sail off.
Cowboy. To be honest, I think the only fight that he should really come back now and do is him versus Diaz 3. I think it's
a good fight.
Yeah, like it won't affect rankings. Like you're not going to like lead it on anywhere. He's got one fight left in his career. A lot of people think that they're not matching him because they're trying to sell the TV rights for the UFC, and it's a big deal to sell it with Conor with one fight left on his contract.
Of course.
So I think it should be like Diaz and just let him go.
That's a good fight. Do you know a fight I think would be a good one for him as well, style-wise and stuff? Bear in mind what he's just gone through is Justin Gaethje. I think that's a fun fight. Why not have a bang up with him? Yeah,
that'd be good as well. I just think there's a good story behind him and Nick Diaz. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
They've got one each.
Yep.
You know, they can talk loads of shit and do it. Like, it'd be a good hype up for a fight. It doesn't really affect rankings in like kind of any way. So no one's like saying, oh, well, Conor's coming back and being fed a top 10 person, not having earned it and stuff. I think that'd be a good one and kind of go out on that. Because he's just... But I don't think, like, again, he might get ready for that, but I don't think he gets ready for anything else.
I think it's gone on too long now, whereas, like, you know, like the excitement of Conor, we all wanted to see him fight. It's just gone on too long now. Now I'm at that point where I'm a bit like... Whatever.
Not bothered.
Not fussed.
I think as well, like Dana White said it, hasn't it, before, like Dana White can go like threaten people and like have power over people to make them fight and do stuff.
This motherfucker.
Yeah, know what you're doing? Like he's got
more money than Dana.
Yeah, it's like, all right, well, if you won't fight, then we're not going to let you fight. Like, nightmare. What will I do?
Lamborghini yacht.
Get
the engines fired up.
Yeah.
But he's talked about bare knuckle boxing as well, hasn't he? Bare knuckle
well, he's invested in that, I think, hasn't he?
I think he's part owner or whatever. I don't know what the deal is there. But
he's just always on it, just drinking cans and like.
But if he fights in that, how much can they be paying him? Like he ain't earning fuck all there, is he? Like I'm sure he's earning a few million, but for him it's nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing. He's not going to get the payday that he wants. And to be honest, the chances of him getting sparked are quite high.
Or like, at least hurt and fucked up and look silly.
Like that's a very much a game of. Like, who's tough as fuck. Like, if you look at Mike Perry... I
was going to say, because that's the fight they're talking about. They've spoken about, isn't it? That's a terrible idea.
Yeah. Like, he, in, like, bare knuckle is unbelievable.
It's his sport, isn't it? That's his thing.
But when you put him over, like, into boxing and stuff like that, like, he loses, like... Yeah. But when he's got that ability to kind of grit through that kind of beating where necessarily other people don't. Mm-hmm. So
it's faster paced too. It's only 2-minute rounds.
Makes a big difference. It's in a circle,
in a tiny little ring, have a tear up, and like when people say what they want, I'm not criticising him, but Luke Rockhold quit in there against him. Didn't he? Do you know what I mean? It's as simple as that. Yeah. Like, imagine if they fought in MMA. How's that going to go? He wouldn't make it out of the first round.
No. But again, I think that is more like a question. Don't get me wrong, there's an absolute like skill level in boxing, but like there's a massive more thing of being able to endure pain as well.
Yeah, of course there is. And I think it's a different thing too. I think Mike Perry, people are going to go, oh, he ain't smart. He is fucking smart enough to realise the difference. Like, he's not boxing in there. You can't box the same. The reason they brought gloves into boxing was not to protect your face, it was to protect my hands. Do you know what I mean? So like when he's doing his thing, if you watch him fight, he's looking to land punches, whereas most people in there, like Paulie Malignaggi is a great example. He lost to Artem Lobov. But he's a world champion boxer. If they boxed, he'd ping his head off. But he tried to box him. He had his front hand down and whatever. And I know it's easy to say from the outside in hindsight, but like, if you're attacking someone to land the punches, like Mike Perry is, and not thinking about boxing as such, it's a different thing, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Like Mike Perry, like it's blatantly like his idea is to like take you out there into like the later rounds of the fight and drown you. Like you just like, it's just every time you get hit, just must fucking kill. Like he's trying to cut each other and stuff
Cuts
like that.
As well as a big thing,
and he's just trying to tough you out. You just like, he can take more punishment than what you can, and he just drowns people in it. Like,
would he beat Michael Venom Page as well? Like, even forget MMA. Imagine if they fought in a boxing match.
Oh yeah,
it can't go well for Mike Perry, can it? Do you know what I mean? Like the elusiveness and whatever. But he found a way against him in that one.
Well, he just did Polaris, didn't he? Like the other weekend. So a lot of people said that he's got shite and like grappling.
I was surprised he won, man.
Against Carlos Condit, which is like a big thing. But yeah, that's like, he's just proved that he has got good grappling.
He's huge too, as well, Michael Venom Page. I don't know him, but I've seen him in gyms, like, just away a little bit. And for the size, for the weight he makes, he's fucking enormous. He's like, I've had a couple of people on here that have been like friends with him growing up and stuff. And they said about it, and I said he's like one of them old. Do you remember like Blockbuster Video? They had like the old cardboard cutouts. That sort of big frame, but like super thin. That's what he's like. He's a big frame guy, man.
The person who's like really surprised me, or like on bigness, when I've met them, like it's two people. One is Roger Gracie, Roger Gracie is frightening him. He's the scariest person I've ever met in real life.
Is he?
Yeah. Like, he's fucking terrifying. Like, he just doesn't smile. He's fucking massive. Like, he just looks like a Terminator.
Yeah.
Like, I remember at one of the after parties for Polaris, you know Sean McDowell? He's like he's a brown belt at Gracie Barry. He doesn't compete much nowadays. But he got hammered and like, he was twerking and like slut dropping in front of like Roger Gracie. And Roger Gracie just like had this look of just sheer like rage and confusion. I wish I'd filmed it because it was amazing. But he's a terrifying human being. Yeah. Like, and the other is I once got in a lift with, this is back in the day, like one of the UFCs, like with Lyoto Machida.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Like, yeah,
he's big boy too.
Yeah, he's massive. Like, because you think like they don't look that big, and I think he was fighting at 205. But he was massive.
But he ended up fighting at 185, and he actually spoke on interviews about going to 70, didn't he, at one point, which is nuts.
But yeah, like you think most most welterweights are walking it around at like 210. Like
yeah. Well, that was one of the things you were saying earlier about GSP. Like someone said to me they'd seen him before, and they were surprised how small he was. Yeah. Because like compared to other welterweights, but I think that plays into it too. Like we were talking a bit at the start when we were about weight cutting and stuff. You can be the right size, you could be small, or you could be too big, can't you? A lot of guys I think are too big for the weight. Yeah.
And obviously the more muscle you have and less fat, it's easier to wake up.
Because you drain the water out.
Yeah. You can manipulate the water a lot easier. So that like helps, which obviously what GSP did and stuff like that. So that helps, but obviously it doesn't when you've got a larger like fat mass and stuff like that. It's why it's more beneficial to have like less fat and more muscle.
Yeah, believe it or not, kids, it's better as a fighter to not be so fat.
But there's a thing as well, is like for not everybody is supposed to be lean enough to have like a six pack.
Genetics come into play as well, don't they?
Some people, if they want a six pack, really have to suffer to get it.
Yeah.
Like really have to suffer, like bodybuilding type diets and cardio and like that kind of thing. Where some people just perform better, but still being lean and like flat stomach and stuff like that, but they just don't have like a deep kind of cut look, and they just perform like so much better.
And some people just wake up like that as well. Yeah. Like if you, I don't know if you watch, you're a UFC fan, right? You watch the game. Did you see recently Lerone? What's his name in the UFC?
I don't think
is it
so,
Thomas? No. Anyway, English guys from Manchester. Yeah. He beat Dan Ige. Someone helped me out. But he's obviously shredded naturally. Yeah. Like, he's like a fucking like this. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's just like got one of them bodies that's like lean as fuck. Yeah.
Some guys are. You know what I mean? No matter what they eat and stuff
Edson
like that.
Barbosa comes to mind.
Yeah. They're just shredded all the time.
Yeah.
Like they look like someone's drawn them.
Yeah.
But that's at the end of the day, a top MMA and stuff like that now, it is a genetics game. It does play a part. Mm-hmm. Like talent, I know I get loads of shit for this, but talent is a real thing. Like, whether it's genetics that you are stronger, faster, recover better, can learn techniques quicker. Like, we've all know that one kid who just comes in the gym and just picks it up fucking instantly, and in 6 months is like a real handful. Yeah. Like, talent like is a real thing. Like, if you want to see the difference, go back and watch one of the Polaris fights, whereas AJ Asagram versus Ben Henderson. And obviously, AJ Asagram is a much better jiu-jitsu fighter than Ben Henderson. But
Ben's a freak.
Ben Henderson absolutely fucking mauls him. He was like, in the fight, he's lying on his back and letting AJ take like side control and stuff and just getting up. Like, he wasn't even there. He double legs him off the stage. The stage is about 4 foot high on purpose. Yeah. It's just... He's just like
bully boyed him, didn't he, from memory?
Yeah,
like just a superior sort of specimen.
Yeah, it's just the case of like wasn't a skill level. It was just like you just couldn't compete with somebody that like athletic.
And that's the game you're playing in all combat sports. But it is like the your skill versus physicality. Yeah, and it balances out at a certain point.
And the problem is when you kind of say talent's real or you are talented, a lot of people think that that's a dig at you not working hard, but it's not. No one can be talented and become the best, but nobody can become the best without working hard and talent. Like, I think it's over there, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
I've got a picture of that, I'm going to post that.
But talent only has to work marginally hard to beat you. Yeah. Like, it is a thing. Like,
it's if they do as much as you've got no chance. Yeah. And there's elements of that as well. Like, toughness could be considered a talent, right? Some people are just tough, man. You can hit them with whatever you like and they ain't going nowhere. That goes a long way in fighting.
Yeah, massively. Like, you've met me now. No matter, like, if I start training now and outwork as many people as I can, I'm never playing in the NBA. You know what I mean?
Yeah, probably not.
No, you know what I mean? Like
me included. By the way.
I could start like playing basketball like now,
and you could have done it all your life as well, by the way.
Yep, and outwork absolutely everyone. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not fucking dunking on LeBron, am I?
It's just not for you.
Yeah,
it's just not for you.
So it kind of goes like that, and and if genetics don't play a part, talent, strength, speed, and stuff like that. If it was just all hard work and just all skill, why don't men fight women?
That's it. Because it's not.
It's not
bullshit.
Yeah,
it's the famous quote from Usain Bolt's coach as well. Do you know this one where he says like someone asked him in an interview, "How do you make Usain so fast?" He said, "Listen, I don't make anyone fast. You have to be born fast, and I can shave a few split seconds off. Simple as that."
Yeah. And it is like. And again, it's not a slight on somebody's ability to work hard. You still need to work unbelievably hard and being unbelievably focused, but being talented or have the genetic inclination to be that way is like you ticket, like it's a cost of entry. You know what I mean? Like,
100%.
Like again, like if you look at the UFC lineup now, all similar body types, all similar styles. You know what I mean? Like you don't, apart from like everywhere, you're not getting like an unbelievably hardworking, overweight guy. You know what I mean? You're not getting someone like who doesn't have those genetic kind of predispositions to be it. You know what I mean? Like you don't get someone who was like at one point obese and then got themselves in shape, then started MMA and then become successful at MMA. These people have never been out of shape. They've just been in it their entire life. So, and again, it's like, but for most of us, it doesn't matter. Like your genetics don't really matter. You should just work to the best of your ability.
You can only do what you got anyway.
Because to be honest, you'll never know where your genetic limits are anyway. B, it doesn't really matter for most of us. We're doing sport because we want to be like, healthier, stronger, more muscle, less fat, look a bit better without top off and whatever, or enjoy jiu-jitsu or be better at jiu-jitsu. So you should just still work as hard as you can allot to do.
And I find as well, the better you get, the more you'll find your own little bits and pieces in terms of like, if you're naturally strong or you're naturally fast, you can play on that better, can't you? You can learn to impose yourself in that thing. Because like you said about the NBA, like I'm not tall, long, so you deal with what you got, right? Do you know what I'm saying? And once you can start applying your own body to people, I find that's when like you start really improving.
It is,
Like I said to someone, again, it was the same white belt with the Kimura guy. It's like, I can teach you an armbar now, perfect armbar, and then I go, right, cool. Get me in an armbar. You can't get you in a fucking armbar. Do you know what I mean? He's got to put the pieces together. He's got to be able to shut your body down first and use the other bits to get there.
It is, and we've got like, and it's probably something for you, like we've got some of the guys in our gym who are like, very tall, very thin. They play like, obviously, like guard unbelievably well when they've got their feet on their hips. Like you even just get like to their knees and it's like to the end of that couch where it's fucking, I was like, I'm like fucking 5'8". There's like, that's like 4 years that I'm never going to get to cross facing, you know what I mean? Like it's, so you absolutely do. And you have to tailor it. And that comes like for nutrition as well. Like a lot of stuff is like, it's the magic of nutrition comes from being like, it's individually tailored to every person. The magic is in the changes that you make and the tweaks that you make as go on.
Right.
Otherwise I would have just wrote one perfect nutrition plan 16 years ago.
There you go.
And you'd still be selling
so
it.
as in like, am I hearing this right? The nutrition plan evolves.
Yeah.
So like if you work with me and you give me X, Y, Z, 3 years on, I'm going to be eating like...
But week to week, it's just like clients check in at minimum of once a week, and it's adjusted based on... Sometimes it doesn't change, depending on the results they get, but sometimes everything's tweaked all the time, especially when it comes to like weight cuts and stuff like that. I'll be speaking to clients a minimum like 3 or 4 times a day in weight cut weeks, like to like just like bring them in and check them in and make sure that everything's running out.
Do you end up turning into a bit of like a counsellor as well? Like people ringing you going, fuck me, man, I'm struggling, I need a peanut.
Yeah, sometimes. Like life stress is like a big one, you know what I mean? Like if they, go through like a death in the family or they lose the job and stuff like that, or, sometimes like they're really struggling or whatever it is. And depending on the person, depends on the conversation that I have with them. If they're a pro or they want to be pro or they want to be the best in the world, it's kind of like, I understand this is hard, but this is the cost of doing it. Like you are either prepared to pay it or not. And it's not up to me to say either way, but everybody's cost is different. Everyone's price is different, but this is yours. You pay it or you don't, but you've got to pay it if you want to advance. But if they're like hobbyists and stuff like that, it's like we've got to more like focus on what they can put in place that they can do consistently.
As in, like, I've only got 3 hours a week to train.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
You know, I've got to eat dinner with the family and I'm going to eat shit at the weekend.
Yeah, yeah. I want to go out for dinner with my wife. Like, if I stop doing that every week, I'm going to get divorced. You know what I mean? Like, or like, I've got to prepare food for the kids and like, I've got to make things work for me. Or, you know, I'm a shift worker and I can't eat at work at my desk, so I can't eat frequent meals through the day. Right. Or whatever reason. It's kind of like, we've got to find something that works for you that you can do consistently. What you find most people do when they set up a plan, especially for like weight loss, is they'll make sure that it's fuck all food. It's all like grilled chicken breast, rice, and like white rice, lettuce, like no kind of thoughts to taste or anything like that. They'll all of a sudden, if they're training 3 times a week, say that they're going to be getting up and running on a morning like 6 days a week. They're going to start like fasting. They're going to start doing this and that and that and that. And it works for a certain amount of time, and they do like lose weight. But when it stops and the body adapts to it, they just burn out really quickly. And then what happens is they gain the weight back, and then at a certain point they go, oh, fuck it, we'll do it again. And they just like go yo-yo up their entire life, where if they just kind of do it from a certain point and then adjust as the results go on, but have it sustainable with their life, they'd get where they're looking to go. Like, no one starts like a fight camp and let's say they've got, you know, 10 kilos to lose. We're not trying to lose 10 kilos in 1 week. Like, it's not the way it goes. Like, it's brought down systematically over a period of time. Food starts at a certain point and then gets tailored as it comes down. It's not just a case of, right, there's the plan, see you later.
Because you can't do it too, I mean, you'll tell me better, but I imagine you can't just go, like, straight into 100% too soon, right? Because then you're fucked. Like 3 weeks on, you've got no energy and whatnot.
Yeah, and obviously everybody's body adapts to it, you know what I mean? You put a plan together and the body will like drop fat for a certain period of time and then it'll adjust and then it won't. If you've kind of blown your load, as it were, and put all your eggs in one basket to start with, that's a lot of metaphors in one sentence.
That's all right, we like that around here. We talk about flat earth.
Yeah. It's you've got nowhere to go, so what you're going to do, go train more, eat less, you know what I mean? Like, it's physically, like, at some point you're just going to, like, where, so you kind of want to make like changes going on. And a big part of like when it comes to working with nutritionists or me or anyone else is giving somebody else that stress of dealing with it, like, because everybody like second guesses themselves. You outsource your training to a coach and stuff like that. Like, if you want to do it, you give it to someone else, they think about it, they worry about it, they just tell you what to eat and when, and you do it and then you get the results. It's like a big like stress relief. Like, there's loads of people here who manage like their own weight cuts and stuff like that and they end up having to do stupid shit because either they overthink it or they talk themselves into like, oh yeah, it's okay for me to have this KFC like 2 weeks out, or, you know, I'm feeling a bit run down, so I should have this pizza, and, you know, or the vice versa of it, run themselves into the ground and not give themselves adequate food. And
but it's like you said, the second guessing thing. You got to take it out your own hands, haven't you? You can't do it yourself, because it's like you said, when things get hard or you know you're not seeing the results, you start tweaking too soon, all that bollocks, don't you?
Like, I work with guys like example is a MMA guy called Chris Meyer. Who's a phenomenal MMA guy. He runs an incredible gym. I've worked with him for about 10 years. And he knows everything, but he's like, I can't think about everything. I can't think about running my gym and preparing for my fight and my family and everything else. So I just give bits to it to people to like sort out.
It's clever, isn't it? Very clever.
Yeah.
Very clever.
Same as like having an accountant and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Most people could probably do it, but you'd want to blow your brains out. Like,
of course you would. Yeah.
So you just give it to somebody else to think about, and sometimes it is a case of that you can get results much quicker than what they would have got them themselves. And obviously better results than what getting results, because obviously there's the experience and knowledge there. But sometimes it is those people have that knowledge, they're just like they're too close to it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But especially when it's you, when you start feeling things, like you said, you'll adapt based on the way you're feeling as well. Which ain't like if you're doing it for me, you're not doing that, are you? You're just seeing results.
Exactly. Yeah. You look at it like clearly. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can't like, and you'll trick yourself like all the time. You'll find ways not to train or stay in bed a bit longer, or you know what it is. Like, everybody does it. We're only human. At the end of the day.
But what's the future for your brand, mate? Are you going to be the go-to, the global, the sort of takeover?
I'd love to be. To be honest, just more of the same. Like, I know it sounds cringy, but I'm unbelievably happy. I do what I love every single day. I've got a family that's amazing. Just keep working. I'm so honoured that people actually come to me and put trust in me. It still like blows my mind. But you know, thankfully every year I get busier. We've got, why am I saying we? There's nobody else.
Are you like one of them third person speakers?
Yeah, there's like, Michael has lots of things on this year. So there's obviously the Reap Invitational this weekend. I've got a couple of guys on that. We've got No Gi Worlds coming up, loads of people in prep for that. A couple more sub-only shows before the end of the year, and then obviously IBJJF Euros is a biggie. Lots of people are in prep for that now. So the good thing about that, or the bad thing, is it's just after Christmas. So a lot of people kind of either have a massive Christmas and then shit need to lose low, but the guys who come to me, we get them ready before Christmas so they can enjoy Christmas and then shave off a little bit after, rather than, doing it the other way around. So people are doing that. And then just more of the same. Hopefully just working with guys who are passionate about the sports that they're doing, and I'm very lucky that they put their faith in it.
Boom. Brilliant, man. Well, look, I really appreciate you doing this,
Yeah,
mate.
thanks for your time, bro.
We'll put all the links and stuff below. Now, I know you've seen a few of these, so you always know at the end, I always ask people what their football team is, because it's the most important question to ask you all day. Don't worry about the nutrition bullshit, mate.
Yeah.
This is important. There's a right answer and there's a wrong answer. Which football team do you support?
No one.
Chelsea, very good one.
Chelsea, I was talking Chelsea.
I was a bit slow there. I'm
You
not
know
really
what?
better at catching that.
I should probably say the Borough, because,
Yep.
it's close. But I know this is probably a bad thing, but I just couldn't give a shit about football.
Forgot to give a shit about football, so he's an adopted Chelsea fan. And
Yeah.
Borough holder, fond place in my memory, because the first game of football I ever sat down to watch was the FA Cup final. Roberto Di Matteo, 42 seconds.
I did make sure that there was no one in the gym as I said that, because I wouldn't make it out of here alive if I didn't say that. But yeah, unless people are choking each other or punching each other, I'm not.
Don't matter, I'm with you there as well. I'm with you. Chelsea, as we're recording this, Chelsea won 8-0 last night, so it's a good time to jump on board the bandwagon, mate.
Yeah, definitely, like Chelsea all the way.
Brilliant, but thanks a lot for your time, mate. I really appreciate you.
Yeah.
Always finish with a fist up like this, mate.
Cheers.
Squeeze the neck. Boom!